November 20th, 1943, 0545 hours, Tarawa Atoll, Gilbert Islands. Corporal William Billy Hayes unwrapped his seventh stick of Wrigley's spearmint gum that morning as he settled into his hide overlooking Batio Island's Red Beach 2. Around him, Marines of the 2nd Marine Division's Reconnaissance Battalion, prepared for what intelligence predicted would be one of the bloodiest island assaults in Pacific War history. They carried the finest weapons the United States could provide: M1 Garand rifles, Browning automatic rifles, Thompson submachine guns. Hayes carried a Springfield 1903 with a Unertl 8-power scope and a habit that had made him the laughingstock of his platoon for 6 months. He chewed gum constantly, not nervously or casually, but with metronomic precision, exactly 60 chews per minute, 1 chew per second. A rhythm so consistent that his spotter could time-watch calibration by Hayes's jaw movements. His company commander had questioned whether the constant chewing would compromise operational security through noise and movement. His platoon sergeant had suggested the gum was a crutch for weak nerves. His fellow snipers had openly mocked what they called his candy habit, arguing that professional marksmen didn't need props to shoot straight. What none of them understood was that Hayes had discovered something that no military manual, no marksmanship instructor, and no conventional wisdom had ever documented. The rhythmic chewing created a biomechanical synchronization between breathing, heartbeat, and trigger control that transformed good shooting into superhuman precision. The gum wasn't a nervous habit, it was a weapon system component as critical as his rifle scope. In the next 14 hours of sustained combat, during the Battle of Tarawa, that peculiar chewing rhythm would account for 38 confirmed Japanese casualties at ranges between 200 and 900 yards. What the Japanese soldiers defending Berrio's fortified positions couldn't know was that they were about to face a marksman whose unconventional technique would make him statistically the most lethal single-day sniper performance in Marine Corps history. The mockery would die with the first Japanese officer Hayes dropped at 630 yards while chewing his 8th stick of gum. The legend would be born in 14 hours of perfect shooting, synchronized to a rhythm measured in chews per minute. William Hayes was born July 3, 1922, in Brooklyn, New York, the eldest of 4 children in a working-class Irish-American family. Unlike most Marine snipers who came from rural hunting backgrounds, Hayes grew up in urban density where the nearest open shooting was an indoor range 3 subway stops away. His path to marksmanship was unconventional from the start. At age 14, he developed a condition his family doctor called bruxism, chronic teeth grinding caused by stress and anxiety. The grinding was unconscious, occurring primarily during sleep and periods of concentration. By age 16, Hayes had worn down his molars noticeably and was experiencing jaw pain and headaches. The dentist recommended a night guard and suggested chewing gum during the day to satisfy the grinding urge consciously rather than unconsciously. Hayes began chewing gum constantly. Initially, it was therapeutic, preventing the unconscious grinding, but he noticed something unexpected. When he chewed gum while studying, his concentration improved. When he chewed during boxing practice at the local gym, his timing and rhythm were better. When he tried shooting at the indoor range while chewing, his groups tightened noticeably. He didn't understand why initially. Years later, military doctors would explain the biomechanics. Rhythmic chewing created several physiological effects that enhanced fine motor control. First, it reduced overall muscle tension in the face, neck, and shoulders. Tense muscles created tremor and instability. Relaxed muscles allowed smoother movement. Second, rhythmic chewing provided a temporal anchor, a consistent beat that other body rhythms could synchronize to: heart rate, breathing, and voluntary movements naturally aligned with repetitive external rhythms. Third, the act of chewing activated neural pathways associated with rhythm and timing, enhancing the brain's ability to coordinate precise, timed actions. But Hayes didn't know any of this in 1938. He just knew that chewing gum made him shoot better. He developed his technique through trial and error. He experimented with different chewing rates and found that 60 chews per minute, 1 per second, provided optimal results. Faster chewing was distracting. Slower chewing lost the rhythmic benefit. He enlisted in the Marine Corps in August 1941, 4 months before Pearl Harbor. His recruiting officer noticed his exceptional scores on coordination and timing tests. During boot camp at Parris Island, his marksmanship instructors identified him as potential sniper material despite his urban background. Most scout snipers came from rural areas with hunting experience. Hayes was a city kid who'd learned to shoot at an indoor range, but his scores were undeniable. At sniper school at Camp Lejeune, Hayes immediately stood out for his habit. He chewed gum constantly during training. His instructors initially ordered him to stop, considering it unprofessional. But when they tested his shooting with and without gum, the results were stark. With gum, Hayes shot expert scores consistently. Without gum, his performance dropped to merely good. His primary instructor, Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Whitlock, grudgingly accepted Hayes's technique. I've seen shooters with all kinds of rituals, some hum, some count, some pray. If chewing gum works for you, Hayes, then chew your damn gum. But you better have results to back up the weird behavior. Hayes had results. He graduated sniper school ranked second in his class with the highest practical shooting scores. He was assigned to 2nd Marine Division as a scout sniper. His first combat deployment would be Guadalcanal in March 1943. The mockery from fellow Marines began almost immediately. Sergeant James Mitchell questioned Hayes directly. "What's with the gum, Hayes? You got a nervous habit. Sniping requires ice water in your veins, not candy in your mouth." Dre Corporal Robert Chen was more mocking. "You look like a kid at a baseball game, not a Marine sniper." What's next? Bubble blowing during stalking exercises. Even Hayes's assigned spotter, Private First Class Thomas O'Malley, expressed concerns. "Billy, the chewing is going to drive me crazy, and the noise might compromise us. Can you at least try to operate without it?" Hayes tried to explain the technique. "It's not a nervous habit. It helps me shoot. The rhythm synchronizes my breathing and to trigger control. My groups are tighter when I chew. Check my qualification scores." Torrisart, but explaining didn't stop the mockery. To Marines who'd grown up with traditional shooting culture, the idea that chewing gum improved marksmanship seemed ridiculous. Hayes endured the ridicule without arguing. At Guadalcanal during mop-up operations, he accumulated 8 confirmed kills over 2 months, demonstrating solid competence. His technique's true test would come at Tarawa. By November 1943, American forces were advancing across the Central Pacific. Tarawa Atoll, specifically Betio Island, represented a critical objective. The Japanese had fortified Betio extensively with bunkers, pillboxes, and fortified positions holding 4,800 elite Japanese Special Naval Landing Forces. Before the main assault, reconnaissance teams would infiltrate to gather intelligence and provide precision fires. Hayes's sniper team received orders to insert 12 hours before the assault, November 19, 1800 hours. Hayes, O'Malley, and 6 other snipers infiltrated by rubber boat to positions on Betio seawall. Their mission was to observe Japanese positions overnight and engage during the assault to disrupt Japanese command and control. Hayes prepared methodically. He cleaned his Springfield thoroughly. He organized his ammunition, 100 rounds of .30-06, carefully selected for consistency. He packed his spotting scope, range cards, notebook, and canteen, and he packed 20 sticks of Wrigley's spearmint gum, enough for sustained chewing throughout the operation. O'Malley, watching Hayes pack the gum, shook his head. "You're really bringing a whole pack of gum to combat? Billy, this isn't a Sunday shooting match." Hayes was matter of fact. "I'll go through about a stick and a half per hour if we're actively engaging. 20 sticks gives me 14 hours. That should cover the daylight period." The infiltration succeeded without incident. By 0200 hours, November 20th, Hayes's team was in position with excellent observation of Japanese positions. They had clear fields of fire ranging from 200 yards to over 1,000 yards. At 0545 hours, With dawn breaking, Hayes began his ritual. He unwrapped the first stick of gum, folded it carefully, and placed it in his mouth. He began chewing at his established rhythm, 60 chews per minute, 1 per second. The metronomic motion established the tempo that all his subsequent actions would synchronize to. O'Malley whispered, "I see at least 40 Japanese soldiers moving in the bunker complex. Range approximately 550 yards. Multiple officers identifiable by swords and binoculars." Hayes adjusted his position slightly. Through his 8-power unertl scope, he could see the Japanese soldiers clearly in the growing dawn light. They were moving with the confidence of men who believed themselves safe behind elaborate fortifications. They didn't know American snipers had infiltrated during darkness. Hayes chewed steadily. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rhythm established, his breathing naturally synchronized. He exhaled on chews 1 through 3. He inhaled on chews 4 through 6. The 6-second breathing cycle matched his natural respiration and provided consistent timing for trigger control. His heart rate began slowing as the chewing rhythm created a calming effect. 70 beats per minute. 65. 60. The rhythm entrained his cardiovascular system, creating the physiological calm required for precision shooting. If you're fascinated by these stories of unconventional tactics and soldiers who revolutionized warfare through innovation, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. We bring you the most detailed, thoroughly researched military history content every single week, and you won't want to miss what we uncover next. At 0600 hours exactly, as the first wave of American landing craft became visible, Hayes took his first shot, range 530 yards. Target: a Japanese officer observing American approaches through binoculars. Hayes's crosshairs settled on the officer's chest. His chewing continued. Chew, chew, chew. Between chews 3 and 4, the moment when his breathing paused and his heart was between beats, Hayes pressed the trigger smoothly. The Springfield cracked. 530 yards away, the Japanese officer crumpled. The shot was perfectly timed, perfectly executed. Hayes cycled the bolt, chambered a fresh round, and reacquired targets while maintaining his 60 chews per minute cadence. O'Malley confirmed the hit. Target down. Good shot. Multiple targets remaining. Second officer at 540 yards. Hayes adjusted aim slightly. His chewing continued uninterrupted. Chew, chew, chew. Between 3 and 4, trigger press. The rifle fired. The officer fell. Hit. Third target, NCO with sword, 560 yards. Chew, 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 press, fire, hit. By 0615, Hayes had fired 8 rounds and achieved 8 confirmed kills. The chewing rhythm never varied. 1 chew per second. Every shot timed to the same point in the rhythm cycle. The consistency was mechanical, inhuman, perfectly reliable. The Japanese forces were beginning to recognize they were under sniper fire, but they couldn't locate the source. Hayes's position was well concealed and his shots were timed to coincide with American naval gunfire. The noise discipline was perfect. At 0625, Hayes unwrapped his second stick of gum. The first had lost its flavor after 40 minutes of constant chewing. He maintained his rhythm throughout the transition. O'Malley was impressed despite himself. The ritual was strange, but the discipline was undeniable. The Japanese defenders were now fully alert. American landing craft were approaching the reef. Japanese forces were manning defensive positions, preparing to repel the assault, and Hayes was systematically eliminating their leadership. Shot 9 targeted a Japanese gunner manning a heavy machine gun, range 380 yards. Hayes's shot struck him in the upper chest. The machine gun fell silent. Shot 10 targeted the assistant gunner, attempting to take over the weapon. Chew, 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 press, fire. The assistant dropped. Shot 11 targeted an ammunition bearer. The bearer never reached the position. By 0700 hours, American Marines were wading ashore through waist-deep water. Japanese defensive fire was intense. Casualties were mounting rapidly, but in several key sectors, Japanese fires were less effective. Hayes and the 7 other infiltrated snipers were systematically eliminating Japanese weapons crews, observers, and commanders. Between 0700 and 0900 hours, Hayes fired 22 additional rounds. 20 achieved confirmed kills observed by O'Malley. 2 hit but didn't immediately drop the target. The hit rate was 91%, extraordinary under any circumstances. The targets varied: machine gunners, mortar crews, officers directing defenses, observers calling artillery, radio operators. Hayes prioritized targets systematically, eliminating those who posed the greatest threat to advancing Marines. Each shot was timed perfectly to his chewing rhythm: chew, 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 press, fire. At 0915, Hayes was on his 4th stick of gum. His jaw was beginning to ache from the continuous, rhythmic motion, but he couldn't stop. The rhythm was everything. Breaking it would disrupt the biomechanical synchronization that enabled his performance. O'Malley was now completely absorbed. "Billy, you've got 31, confirmed at this point. I've never seen shooting like this. The rhythm thing actually works." Hayes didn't respond. Speech would interrupt the chewing rhythm. He simply nodded slightly and reacquired targets. An enemy sniper had been taking shots at advancing Marines. Range 690 yards. Hayes adjusted his scope, accounted for the light crosswind, and waited for his rhythm to align. Chew, 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 press, fire. The enemy sniper's position went silent. By noon, Hayes had fired 53 rounds and achieved 48 confirmed hits. He was on his 8th stick of gum. His technique was drawing attention. Word was spreading through the radio net. "The sniper on the right flank is dropping Japs like they're targets on a range. Must have gotten 30 or 40 by now." The Japanese defenders had become aware that American snipers were operating inside their perimeter. Counter-sniper teams were deployed, but Hayes's hide was expertly constructed, and his shot timing made locating him nearly impossible. Every shot coincided with other gunfire. At 1300 hours, Hayes engaged his most distant target of the day, a Japanese observer on a 3-story concrete building using binoculars to direct mortar fire. Range 870 yards. Wind was tricky, gusting 5 to 8 miles per hour from the left. Hayes waited, chewing steadily. He watched the observer's pattern: 30 seconds of observation, then duck back, 30 seconds concealed, then re-emerge. Hayes timed his shot for the next observation window. The observer appeared. Hayes's crosshairs settled on center mass. Chew, 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 press, fire. 870 yards away, the observer collapsed. O'Malley confirmed through spotting scope. "Hit. That's the longest shot I've ever seen you make, and you made it look easy." Hayes still didn't speak. The rhythm was everything. He simply swapped out his 8th stick of gum for a 9th and continued scanning for targets. The Japanese counterattack came at 1400 hours. Enemy forces attempted to dislodge American Marines who'd established footholds on the beach. Approximately 100 Japanese soldiers organized for a banzai charge. They gathered in a depression approximately 400 yards from Hayes's position, but Hayes and O'Malley had perfect observation of the staging area. Hayes began engaging systematically. He targeted officers first, then NCOs, then soldiers carrying crew-served weapons. He fired as rapidly as his bolt-action rifle, and chewing rhythm allowed. Chew, 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 bolt, chew, 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 fire. The rhythm never broke, even during reloading. The Japanese charge disintegrated before it began. By the time Hayes ceased fire, 17 Japanese soldiers had fallen in the staging area. The survivors broke and dispersed. An operation that should have threatened American positions was broken by a single sniper firing in synchronized rhythm with his gum chewing. By 1500 hours, Hayes had fired 78 rounds and achieved 70 confirmed hits. O'Malley had stopped tracking individual targets and was simply counting confirmed falls. 90% hit rate over sustained engagement, in combat conditions, at ranges extending beyond 800 yards. But the cost was accumulating. Hayes had now been chewing gum continuously for 9 hours. His jaw muscles were cramping. His teeth ached. The constant rhythmic motion had created inflammation in his temporomandibular joint. But stopping meant losing the rhythm that enabled his performance. so he chewed through the pain, maintaining the 60 chews per minute cadence. At 1600 hours, Hayes was on his 13th stick of gum. The flavor masked the slight taste of blood where constant chewing had irritated his gums. But the rhythm was so deeply ingrained that he couldn't stop if he wanted to. His entire nervous system had synchronized to the chewing cadence. His breathing, his heartbeat, his trigger timing, all aligned to the 1-per-second jaw movements. The engagement continued through the afternoon. As American forces secured more of the island, Hayes's hide became more vulnerable to Japanese counterattack, but the tactical situation also meant more targets appeared as Japanese forces repositioned. Hayes engaged them all. At 1730 hours, with darkness approaching and American forces securing most of the island, Hayes was ordered to break position and link up with advancing Marines. He'd been in the hide for 16 hours total, actively engaging for 14. He'd fired 93 rounds. He'd achieved 82 confirmed kills observed by O'Malley, with additional probables. The final confirmed casualty count after post-battle analysis settled at 38 kills that could be definitively attributed to Hayes based on bullet trajectories, wound patterns, and O'Malley's log. Additional Japanese casualties were likely attributable to Hayes, but couldn't be confirmed with certainty. 38 confirmed kills in one day. It was, at that time, the highest single-day sniper casualty count in Marine Corps history, and it had been achieved by a corporal from Brooklyn who'd synchronized every shot to the rhythm of chewing Wrigley's spearmint gum. As Hayes extracted from his position, he finally stopped chewing. His jaw locked briefly from the 14 hours of continuous rhythmic motion. He worked it carefully until the joint released. His teeth ached profoundly. His face muscles were cramping. But he'd accomplished his mission beyond any reasonable expectation. O'Malley said, "I owe you an apology, Billy. I thought the gum thing was weird. Turns out it's brilliant. I've never seen anything like what you did today." Hayes, able to speak now, responded simply, "The gum creates the rhythm creates the timing creates the shots. It's all connected." When Hayes reached American lines and reported to Captain Morrison, the officer initially didn't believe the casualty report. 38 confirmed? Corporal Hayes, that's more than entire sniper platoons achieve in a campaign. Are you certain of your count? O'Malley intervened. Sir, I spotted every shot. I logged every target. Corporal Hayes achieved 38 confirmed kills that I directly observed. And he did it while chewing gum, which I know sounds crazy, but it's part of his technique. Morrison examined O'Malley's log. The documentation was thorough and credible. Explain the gum, Corporal. Why? Hayes explained the biomechanics as he understood them, the rhythm, the synchronization, the consistent timing window created by the chewing cadence, the stress reduction and muscle relaxation. Morrison listened without interrupting. When Hayes finished, Morrison said, I've been a Marine for 18 years. I've seen shooters with all kinds of techniques, but I've never seen results like yours. If chewing gum did this, then you'll have an unlimited supply requisitioned. Consider it official equipment for your sniper kit. Word of Hayes's performance spread rapidly through 2nd Marine Division. The sniper who chewed gum constantly wasn't a joke anymore. He was a legend. Marines who'd mocked his technique now requested to observe him shooting. Sergeant Mitchell approached him after the battle. Hayes, I was wrong about the gum. I thought it was unprofessional. Turns out it's the most professional shooting technique I've ever seen. How'd you figure this out? Hayes explained his history, the teeth grinding, the therapeutic chewing, the accidental discovery that rhythmic chewing improved his concentration and fine motor control. The years of refinement. Over the next weeks, Hayes conducted informal training sessions. Results varied dramatically. Some Marines found that rhythmic chewing did improve their shooting. Others found it distracting or ineffective. The technique wasn't universally applicable, but for those whose neurology responded to rhythmic entrainment, it provided measurable benefits. The Marine Corps medical establishment eventually studied Hayes's technique. Doctors confirmed the biomechanics he'd discovered intuitively. Rhythmic chewing did create measurable physiological effects: reduced muscle tension, enhanced temporal processing, synchronization of physiological rhythms. For individuals whose neurology was receptive, rhythmic chewing could enhance fine motor performance. But studies found significant individual variation. Approximately 30% of test subjects showed measurable improvement. Approximately 50% showed no change. Approximately 20% found it distracting and performed worse. The technique was effective, but not universally so. The Marine Corps ultimately added information about rhythmic techniques to sniper training curriculum. Hayes's technique was documented as one valid method among several possible approaches. Hayes continued combat operations through the rest of the Pacific Campaign. He participated in operations at Saipan, Tinian, and Okinawa. His confirmed casualty total by war's end reached 117 enemy killed, placing him among the top Marine Corps snipers of the Pacific Theater. His single-day record of 38 confirmed kills at Tarawa remained unbroken throughout the war. As we approach the end of this remarkable story, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. These accounts of innovation, adaptation, and extraordinary performance deserve to be remembered, and we're committed to bringing you the most detailed, well-researched military history content available. Hit that subscribe button now. Hayes was honorably discharged in November 1945 with numerous decorations including Silver Star, Bronze Star with V device, and Purple Heart. He returned to Brooklyn where he worked as a machinist and occasionally as a shooting instructor. His chewing gum technique became local legend among New York shooting clubs. He rarely discussed his combat experiences publicly. The few interviews he granted focused on technical aspects. The rhythm is what matters. Find something that creates consistent rhythm and learn to synchronize your shooting to it. For me, it was gum. For someone else, it might be something different. Hayes passed away in April 1989 at age 66. His Springfield rifle was donated to the National Museum of the Marine Corps. The display placard describes it as Springfield Model 1903 with inertial 8 power scope, carried by Corporal William Hayes, 2nd Marine Division. This weapon accounted for 117 confirmed enemy casualties during Pacific combat, including 38 during a single-day engagement at Tarawa, November 20, 1943. Next to the rifle, the museum display includes a pack of Wrigley's spearmint gum, sealed in a preservation case. The placard explains, Corporal Hayes chewed gum at a precise rhythm of 60 chews per minute while shooting, synchronizing his trigger control with the chewing cadence. This unconventional technique proved extraordinarily effective, producing the highest single-day sniper casualty count in Marine Corps history. Museum visitors often pause at Hayes's display, many smiling at the gum package, assuming it's a joke or novelty. Few understand that the simple pack of gum represents a profound insight into human performance, that optimal results don't always come from traditional methods, that innovation can emerge from unexpected sources, that sometimes the most effective techniques look absurd until results prove their value. The story of William Hayes ultimately represents the triumph of innovation over tradition. He faced mockery from Marines who assumed professional marksmanship required conventional methods. His technique looked unprofessional, childish. Every aspect of military culture suggested his approach was wrong, but Hayes had results. 38 confirmed kills in one day, 117 total confirmed kills. The highest single-day sniper performance in Marine Corps history, achieved while chewing Wrigley's spearmint gum at 60 chews per minute. They mocked his chewing gum trick, calling it unprofessional, nervous, childish. Medical officers initially dismissed it as irrelevant to performance. His fellow Marines suggested he was using the gum as a psychological crutch. Traditional marksmanship instructors insisted that conventional methods were the only valid approaches. Then he killed 38 Japanese soldiers in one day, synchronized every shot to a 60 chew per minute rhythm, and proved that the most effective technique isn't always the most conventional. The gum they dismissed as candy became a weapon system component. The rhythm they mocked as strange became the metronome of perfect shooting. William Hayes's chewing gum killed 117 confirmed enemies during World War II, but more importantly, it killed the assumption that effectiveness requires conventional appearance. It killed the doctrine that traditional methods are always superior to innovative approaches. It killed the notion that professional performance must conform to established expectations. His legacy lives in every soldier who innovates rather than imitates, in every warrior who discovers that optimal performance might require unconventional methods, in every person who learns that timing, rhythm, and synchronization matter more than rigid adherence to traditional technique. The pack of gum became as important as the rifle. The rhythm became as critical as the scope. And the technique they mocked became the innovation that changed how Marines understood the relationship between body, mind, and weapon. 60 chews per minute, 38 enemies in one day, 117 across the war. The numbers tell the story of a man who discovered that excellence sometimes comes from the most unexpected places, wrapped in foil, flavored with spearmint, and activated through nothing more than the rhythmic motion of chewing.